Okay, so this is the solution to kayak, right? My dog is barking. So how it works is like this. Basically, you're given an array of 2 times n. And your goal is, first thing you can do is you can take out 2 numbers. So maybe I want to take out the 2 4s. And with the remaining numbers, make little pairs such that you'll get the minimum possible absolute difference. So the absolute difference between these two will be these. And then you sum it up. And that's the minimum number. Or not, that's not the minimum number, but you want to make that as small as possible. Now, in order to do that, first things first, let's like simplify everything, I guess. We'll make everything easier. Okay. The hardest thing in this problem is that you can choose any 2 numbers to cut out, to cross out, which is like, there's a bunch of possibilities. So let's make things easier and ask, how do we minimize it without crossing it out? And the answer to that would be just to sort the array. Okay. By sorting the array, you can you'll have the minimum possible distance between every pair of values. It's kind of hard to explain, but one thing you'll notice is that duplicates come to each other, like they're connected. They're always will be connected because they're sorted, right? Also, because like if you imagine like a number line, and I'm just gonna do like 1, and this will be 3, 4, and 6. If I matched like 6 with 3, like in this case, we have a 4 that we can just shorten the absolute distance with. And by sorting the array, it always allows it so that it's like this. And that allows for the minimum possible absolute distance. Now, you could like pair these 3's together and you get 0. And then pair these 2 and you get 3. But like, it's just a little extra and you don't really need to do that. What you can do in order to find the minimum absolute sum of absolute differences is just like pair I with I minus 1 or I with I plus 1 kind of deal. So what we can do is you can just do like a for loop and then count the absolute difference between I minus I plus 1 kind of deal. Okay, so now we're going to get to the condition where you have to pick 2 values. And the way we can do it is through what we call brute force. Brute force is the idea where you go through every possibility. And in this problem, brute force looks like this. So what I can do is, since n is so small, I can brute force every single possible pair of values. So I can make 2 for loops, and I and j will represent 2 different values on the array. Okay, on a sorted array, because sorted is the best possible case. Right, and notice I put I plus 1. You don't have to put 1 here, because if I iterate through this, like, this is I, and then j will be like blah, 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 blah. And then I iterates over here. They've already noticed this pair of 1 and 3, so you don't need to check. It just, if you want to like brute force through every single possible pair, you can do 1 through the size of the array, and then I plus 1 through the size of the array. If that makes sense. It's kind of hard to understand. But yeah. Then this will allow for choosing every single possible pair. Right, it will kind of look like this. So I will be 1, j will be 3. Right, and then basically brute force every possible pair. Kind of like that. And then after that, we can go through the process, and we'll just do the I plus or minus, or I, the absolute difference between I and I minus 1. And so we'll have like k, and it will iterate through 1 plus 2m. And then it'll be like sum plus equals to array A I minus array I minus 1 kind of deal, something like that, and you'll just sum those up. So if you want to look at my code, it's in C++, it doesn't matter. But what I did was kind of like this. So I have my vector, which is also an array list in Java. I sort it, answer, this is 10 to the 9th, it's just some big number. And then I basically brute force through every single possible pair. Then in order to avoid like counting the numbers you crossed out, like the numbers you crossed out is I and J. In order to avoid it, I did this so this is like going through all of the array. And then in order to avoid it, I just use a while loop, and then if K is equal to I or J, the excluded numbers, I just increment it and avoid it. And this pre-value is just like making the pairs. So yeah, and abs is essentially math out of abs. It just takes the value, absolute value between proven v or the array list k at index k, and then yeah, and then I take the minimum value, and then I output it. That's the solution to Kayak.